On here. How about that? See, there you go. Good.
You should just put a picture of the rabbi over here. So they'll get people confused. All right, good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning.
You guys are stuck with me today. I'm sorry. I do apologize. The Rabbi's not here.
Want my refund?
All right, Bisimana Tava. I heard you guys finish the 7th parak, starting the 8th parak. All right, very exciting. Moving along, you guys almost done.
A lot of debates.
All right, so the Mishnah says like this: Ela devarim sheben ben Shammai uben Beit Hillel b'suda. These are the disputes, the machlokot between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel in the category of a meal, because obviously they had a lot of other machlokot. So this is just talking about the ones in the meal. This is only Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Shammai and Hillel, they only had 3 machlokot. That's all that they argued in. Their students, however, there was a lot of disputes between them. Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, there was a lot of disputes. So these are the ones that are applicable to the meal. So the first one is Beit Shammai mevarich alayayin alayom v'achar mevarich alayom alayayin. Beit Shammai says first you make a bracha on the day, which is Mekadesh Shabbat or Mekadesh Yom Tov, and then you say Hagefen. Well, Beit Hillel says like the way we do it, mevarich alayayin v'achar mevarich alayom. Like we do it, we say Savi Maranan, then you say Baruch Atah Hashem L'Gem Achalam Baruch Gefen. That's alayayin. And then you say Baruch Atah Hashem L'Gem Achalam Shekideshanu V'Masadav V'Tivanu, right? And then you go through the whole thing, and then Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh Shabbat. That's the Yom, right? You have 2 mitzvot. You have a din. You have a halacha that you're supposed to be Mekadesh the day, so Mekadesh Shabbat or Hazmanim or whatever it is. And then you have, because of that, the Chazal learned down from the pasuk of Zachar Yom Shabbat, Zachareu Alayayin, that you have to do it on wine. So you have to when you're Mekadesh Shabbat, when you remember Shabbat, you're supposed to do it on wine. If you don't have wine, you can use bread. But whatever you're doing it on that wine. So the question always is, which one comes first? So Beit Shammai says, first you make a bracha on the day, right? We'll see in the Gemara why. And then you say a bracha on the yayin. Beit Hillel says no, like the way we do it. First, you make a bracha on the yayin, on the wine, and then you make a bracha on the actual day, which is Mekadesh Shabbat. That's the first machlokes. Next machlokes. Beit Shammai omrim notnu liyadayim v'achar mozim et hakos. Like we had before, the Gemara not so long ago, but a few vlado ago, the Gemara said that there was a whole process on how to eat. Right? They used to come in, they used to wash one hand, and they used to have a drink. Then they would go into the main room, right? The whole process that the Gemara goes through. So the question over here is, over here, Beit Shammai says that first, what you do is first you wash your hand, and then you're mozik the kos, which means you dilute the wine and then you drink it. But Beit Hillel, no, first mozik et kos. First you dilute the wine, you get it ready, then you wash your hands. Question is which one comes first? Again, the Gemara will explain all of these disputes. The Gemara will go through them, each one, and discuss them. What's the problem? What's the issues? How does each one learn it out? But this is just for the general idea. Beit Shammai omrim that mekaneach yada b'mapeh umanich ala shulchan. That after you finish wiping your hand when you do netilat yadayim, so after you finish, so you take that cloth, towel, whatever you're using to dry your hands, and you leave it on the table. But Beit Hillel, no, you don't leave it on the table. You leave it on on the cushion. They used to recline on a couch. So the cushion that's next to you, that's what you put it on. This is going to be because of the din of tumah, impurity. We want to know what's going to make something else impure. So depending on where you put it, the Gemara is going to say it might make it into another tumah, because we don't realize this, but back in the days they were so cautious and careful of tumah and tahara, of purity and impurity, that they had to make sure that everything that they did was pure. That's why a person who was an Amaretz, you weren't allowed to just eat by him, because we're afraid they might give you something tameh, like the Gemara in Shabbat says. So they were very cautious about tumah and tahara, because this is stuff that they had to be careful of, because they had to eat shumot and different stuff that they had to eat in a pure stage. So they had to be careful not to become impure. We're so like so far removed from it. So when you come to these type of questions, it's like, what? Like, who cares? Just put it wherever you want. But it's not true because they actually had to be very cautious about this.
The issue for the napkin to be wet itself and where.
Well, if it's a little bit wet, so that's going to be the Gemara's question. The Gemara is going to deal with it. If it's a little bit wet and you put it on the table, it might make the table tameh and make whatever you touch into a sheni l'tumah, and then it'll go down. Or if it's on the kesed, it might be worth. The Gemara will discuss why each one holds it is. This the concept is because of tumah and tara. Next, another machloket is Beit Shammai mechabdim et habayit v'achgar nolim liyadayim. Right, Beit Shammai says first you clean the house, the place where you ate around. You clean that, and then you wash your hands, and then but Beit Hillel says no, the other way around. First, notim liyadayim, v'achar mechadim et habayit. But we don't really like clean up the house before we do mayim achronim, before we wash. So we'll see. The Gemara will explain what exactly the machloket is. Beit Shammai next. When it comes to Havdalah. So if you only have a cup of wine, 1 cup of wine on Motzei Shabbat, so now what do? Right? Because you want to do it on Mikrat Hamazon, and you want to make Havdalah in it. They only have 1 cup. Right? You went on vacation and somebody drank too much of the bottle and didn't leave anything over. So there's only 1 cup left. Now what do? What do you use it for? So the order is when you're going to say Birkat Hamazon. So according to Beit Shammai, the order is like this: first you say Ner, which is Burmer Esh. Then you say Mazon. Then you say Birkat Hamazon with the Kiddush on it, right? You say Samir Ranan, you say Hagefen. Then you say Bistamim, right? And then you say Havdalah, Hamavdal Ben Kodesh Shechol. That's the order. No. First you say Ner, right? First you say Burmesh. Then you say Bistamim. Ner and Bistamim are together. Then you say Mazon, and then you say Havdalah, right? Havdalah is, according to everybody, is at the end, and Ner is in the beginning. That will come applicable pretty soon. Beit Shammai Omrim, okay, that's another machloket. Beit Shammai Omrim, now when you say Borim Esh, we're used to saying Borim Esh, but it was actually a machloket. What bracha do you make? So Beit Shammai says the bracha that you make is Shebara Me'or Ha'esh, that Hashem created, right, during the 6 days. He created really as much as Shabbat, but he created the light of the fire. And Beit Hillel Borei Moresh, he's creating. It's a consistent. That's a machloket. What exactly the gear says? Again, something the Gemara will explain. If you said one, not the other, or yotze, not yotze, b'diavad, not b'diavad. Ein bevarchim lo ala ner v'lo ala besamim shel goyim. If you have a ner or if you have besamim of a goy, so let's say Motzei Shabbat, you didn't have a light, and you have a goy that comes and gives you a light, so you would not be allowed, according to this Mishnah, you would not be allowed to make a beracha on that. Or let's say bisamim. The person didn't prepare before, and a goy comes. Oh, bisamim. Where's the bisamim? The goy comes running from the kitchen and gives you a bisamim, and it belongs to him. So if it belongs to him, you will not be allowed to make a beracha on it. Let's say they set aside a ner, a candle, or bisamim, spices, the good smelling stuff for a dead person. They set it aside for him, so you're not allowed to have any enjoyment from something that was set aside from the dead person, and therefore you will not be allowed to make a beracha on that as well. If it belonged to an idol or people who run the idol, so also you would not be allowed to make a beracha on that. Further, right? You're not allowed to make a beracha on the candle until you actually have enjoyment. That's what we try and make sure, that a person has enjoyment. Someone's too far and they're not able to actually enjoy it. So it could be a beracha levatala, because what are you making a bracha on? It's like saying shakol nevavura and then doing nothing. You have to do something afterwards. So over here also, when you say bar me'esh, you have to actually have enjoyment from the light. So therefore we look at it, we look at the difference between our skin and our nails. So that's some type of an enjoyment. Fine. Mi she'acha v'shachach v'lo berach. Chas v'shalom doesn't apply to anybody over here, but let's say chas v'shalom, somebody ate and he got busy and he forgot to say Birkat Hamazon, and he ran out of the house. He's running to work. He's running to a shir. He had to come to learn, and he forgot. Oh, he was on his way. Oh, I forgot to say Birkat Hamazon. Now what do you do? So there's a machloket, of course. No, you got to go back to where you ate. Go home. Tell the Rosh Hashiva, I forgot to bench, and hopefully it'll never happen again. And that's what you say Birkat Hamazon. No, wherever you remember, say Birkat Hamazon over there. we don't bother a person to go back home and say Birkat Hamazon. Okay. Right? So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, how long does a person have to say Birkat Hamazon? Meaning, if a person ate today, tomorrow is he allowed to say Birkat Hamazon? Oh, yesterday I ate. Okay, so I'll say Birkat Hamazon today. The Gemara says no. Until the food digests in the stomach, when it goes down, when it digests. Now, of course, now what does that mean? How long is that? So Rashi, what he tells us, the Gemara will let you know how long that is. So next, balahem yain achar hamazon, right? After the food, they bring them wine. Now let's say they only have that cup of wine. They don't have anything else after that. So first you make a bracha on the wine, because we'll see that Beit Shammai really holds that you, according to one opinion at least, that you don't need to say Birkat Hamazon. When you say Birkat Hamazon, you don't need to say it on a kos, you don't need to say it on a cup of wine. And therefore you can make a bracha on the wine before and then say Birkat Hamazon afterwards. That mevarach al hamazon, first you say Birkat Hamazon, v'achach mevarach al yain, because they hold that when you have Birkat Hamazon, you're supposed to say it on a kos. You're supposed to try and say it on a kos. So therefore, to say it on a cup of wine, therefore they say first say Birkat Hamazon, then say the Bar Pir Geffen and have the wine. Another din is v'onim amen achar Yisrael hamevarech. If you hear a beracha from a yid, this is very applicable. You come in, somebody is saying shakol ne'avivaro. You didn't hear the rest of the beracha. So this Mishnah says that you're allowed to say amen to such a beracha, right? If you hear part of it, again, we don't pass it from the Mishnah, but I'm pretty sure that's the way we hold the halacha. If you hear part of a beracha, you're allowed to say amen to it. But that's only talking about if you hear from a yid, from a Jew. If you come in and you see a guy and he's saying "Sha'akol ne'avivaro," right? There was a maid of somebody in the community who was singing Shalom Aleichem, and they had it recorded. There was a guy who came downstairs and she was singing the tune of Shalom Aleichem. She actually was saying the words. She was with them for so many years that she actually learned it. She was there every Friday night. She was there for many years, and she was singing. She had her earphones on, and she was singing Shalom Aleichem. The whole thing. It was a very funny video that was going on. And the guy I actually know the guy, and he's like, "Oh, that's my maid. It's in our house." So they can learn these things. So they say, over here they say Shabbat Shalom. She can answer, not answer, whatever it is what it is. But the goyim, we live amongst the goyim, and sometimes they learn some of these practices. So let's say they want to say a beracha. So they say you hear them say Sha'akol ne'avivaro bidbaro. You're not allowed to say amen. You have to hear the entire beracha, because we're afraid maybe when they said the beginning part of the bracha, they said Berachot Yeshu or Yashka, cheese and crackers, and then they said the beracha. You can't say amen to Chas Shalom. You can't be molded to such a thing. So therefore, you have to hear the entire beracha and make sure that they say it properly, and you know who they're blessing. So the Gemara says like that. After the whole complicated Gemara, there's so many cases. It's not complicated, but there's a lot of ideas in this Mishnah. Tana Rabbanan. So we learn like this. So the first machloket that we had is, what do you say first? Do you say Mekadesh Shabbat? Do you say the beracha on the day, on the Shabbat or Yom Tov? Or do you say it on the wine, the beracha on the wine first? You say Al Geffen like we do, and then you say Mekadesh Shabbat or Mekadesh Yisrael V'Azamanim. So the Gemara explains, Tana Rabbanan, Devarim shebin Beit Shammai Beit Hillel B'Seudah, the things that are between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel applicable to a meal. Beit Shammai Omim, the first one was Mevarach al Hayom. First you make a beracha, Mekadesh Shabbat, V'achkach Mevarach al, and then you say Bar Pir Geffen. Why? So over here he explains, he gives two reasons. First of all, Shayom Gorim L'Yayim Shiyavo. The whole reason why you're drinking wine today, or at least why you have a chiyuv to drink wine today, is because it's Shabbat, or it's because of Yom Tov. So now that you have Shabbat or Yom Tov, now you have to say Kiddush. So therefore, what's the Ikar? The Ikar is to say Mekadesh Shabbat, because that's the Ikar that's bringing you to the wine. Or else otherwise, if you want to drink, you could drink. Shabachol Halelot Anu, if you want to, you could or not. But today you have a chiyuv. You're supposed to be Mekadesh Shabbat or Yom Tov on wine. So therefore, since that is the Ikar, since that is the main thing, so therefore, obviously, you should say the day first, and then say yain, which comes afterwards. And second of all, the kavar kadesh hayom yain lobam. Second of all, chronologically, when it comes to Shabbat, what happens first? Now, if you do early Shabbat, how exactly you do this is to be discussed. But But usually, first you have Tetu Kachavim, and then you have Kiddush later, right? You're not doing Kiddush right at Tetu Kachavim. So therefore, chronologically, what happens first? First, you have Shabbat that happens, or Yom Tov happens first, and then later on, you're going to have wine. So therefore, when you make Kiddush, what should come first? The same thing. First, you say Mekadesh Shabbat. First, you sanctify the day, and then you say the Beracha on the wine, because that's what happens in the day. So therefore, by Kiddush, you do the same thing.
What about the concept of taking in Shabbat early? It doesn't affect, you still have to make sure Kiddush is at the right time.
Right. So that's what we were saying. If somebody does early Shabbat, if you do it earlier, but the idea is that even so, it sounds like usually you have the Shabbat that happens first, and the wine is not there when Shabbat happens. Let's say you're saying
You're taking the day.
you're
early
taking the
anyway.
day in, so therefore, I mean nowadays anyway, once you say Baruch Hu or you say Mizmor David, Mizmor Shalom Shabbat, but Ashkenazim, Sephardim, what exactly you say that you're already Mikabel Shabbat way beforehand, not way, but you're beforehand. I mean, the Gemara does discuss the case of, let's say you have somebody who is in the middle of eating, right? This comes up on Purim, that comes out on Friday. People who extend their meal, then it becomes Shabbat, right? Let's say candlelighting at that time is 5:30 or Shabbat starts at 5:30. So of course, in a Berachot, somebody who understands this is make sure you start your meal earlier, you finish earlier, you have time to prepare for Shabbat. But let's say somebody was partying and they were having a really good time, and then somebody was like, Shabbat already, what do you do? One discusses that, right? You have to spread over a tablecloth and then you make Kiddush and then you continue eating. You have to wash again, don't have to wash again. It's all fun and games, but it could happen. It happened one time we were at work, we had a meeting with unfortunately, we had a meeting with Goyim and it got late and it was mamish getting late. I told him, this, we got to go. Like, you can get into a lot of issues because of this, but it does happen. So you have to be careful. You have to be cautious of these things. But this is what Beit Shammai holds, that since chronologically, first what happens is first it becomes Shabbat and then later on the wine comes. So therefore, when you're making Kiddush, you do the same thing. First, you make Kiddush, then you say Hagefen. So that's what Beit Shammai is. Beit Hillel, mevarich alayim, v'achach mevarich alayim. No, the punk farket, as they say. First, you make a beracha on the wine, like we do. You say Bar Pri Hagefen, then you say Mekadesh Shabbat. Why? Shayayin goyim lekidusha. The whole reason why you say Kiddush is because you have the wine. If a person doesn't have wine, then he wouldn't say Kiddush because you have nothing to be Mekadesh on. So therefore, since even as Rashi points out, even if somebody would make it on bread, let's say somebody doesn't have wine, so he uses his chalot, he uses his bread to make Kiddush on it. Still, that takes the place of the wine. If you don't have the bread, then you wouldn't take Kiddush either. So the whole reason why you're saying Mekadesh Shabbat, even though you have a mitzvah to be Mekadesh Shabbat, is because of the wine. Without the wine, you can't make Kiddush. So therefore, what should be the first thing you say? Is Kiddush. It's first you say on the wine, and then you say Mekadesh Shabbat. That's first of all. Second of all, Davar, another reason, Berkat Hayayin Tedira or Berkat Hayom ain't a Tedira. So the Berkat Hayayin is more common, and Berkat Hayom is not so common. It only comes Friday night. Tadir v'shena tadir kodem. Right? You have something that's more common and something that's less common. The general rule is that the thing that is more common takes precedence. That's the way it always is. So therefore, what takes precedence over here? Since the wine is more common, so therefore you should make the beracha on the wine and then make the beracha on the kiddush. And the Gemara and the Mishnah, the Bryce over here, and the Berachot ends off and says, "Halacha kedivrei Beit Hillel." The halacha is like Beit Hillel. And the Gemara is going to ask, this is obvious. What do you mean? Of course, the halacha is like Beit Hillel. We're always passing like Beit Hillel. So the Gemara will ask that. So first of all, the Gemara wants to know, my davar acher. According to Beit Hillel, that said that you have two reasons. First of all, the wine causes the kiddush to happen, so therefore make the bracha on the wine. Second of all, tadir v'shena tadir, more common and less common. You do common. Why do you need to come into the second reason? So my davar acher. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara answers and says, maybe you're going to say hadam tarti. Remember, Beit Shammai had how many reasons? He had two reasons. First of all, the day causes that you're going to have a cup of wine, and second of all, because chronologically you already had the day Mekadesh, and then you have wine later. So therefore, when you're making kiddush, you do it the same way. So since Beit Shammai has two reasons, over here, according to Beit Hillel, you might only have. If you don't have the second reason, you're only going to have one reason. So the Gemara says that's why the Berachot says davar acher to tell you no machanami tati nenu. According to Beit Hillel, we also have two reasons. So therefore, don't hold like Beit Shammai just because he has two reasons. Beit Hillel has one. They both have two reasons. Birkat hayayin tedira, birkat hayom ena tedira. Tada b'shen tada tada kodem. That's his second reason. So now what we asked before, so the end of the Baraita said, v'halacha kedivrei Beit Hillel. So he asked the Gemara a question. Pshita, the ha nafka batkol. The Gemara in Eruvin says that they asked, who is the halacha like? Who do we hold like? If you have a machlok, if you have a dispute between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, who do you hold like? So a batkol, a heavenly voice, whatever that means, comes out and says the halacha is kedivrei Beit Hillel. So we already know that the halacha is like Beit Hillel. So why did the Braita have to tell you? Whenever you have a machlok, whenever you have a dispute between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, the halacha is always like Beit Hillel. So what does the Braita need to add extra words over here? The Gemara says two reasons, or two answers. First of all, I can tell you this Braita is talking about before the Bat Kol came out. So therefore, the time of this Braita, before the Bat Kol came, he told you, okay, so you have a machlok at Beit Shammai, Beit Hillel, we pass it like Beit Hillel. You never heard the Bat Kol yet. Bat Kol happened generations later. I'll tell you another answer is really we're talking about over here, La'achar Bat Kol. Even after the Bat Kol that it happened. And who does this go like? Rabbi Yeshua, this goes according to Rabbi Yeshua, Adam ein mashkichin bebat kol. So this is a famous story in Bam Metzia, right? With the Achnai of the Tana Shel Achnai. It's a famous machloket between, everybody knows the machloket, don't know the machloket, you know the machloket? There's a machloket between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. If there's a certain type of an oven, if it's mikabel tuma or not, if it could become impure, not become impure, not for our sugya. But the story over there goes that Rabbi Eliezer says if the halacha is like me, he has like a bunch of things, the things that he did. One of the things that he says, if the halacha is like me, then this tree over here should pop out of the ground and fly 400 parsot, which is, let's say 400 miles, for give or take. The tree jumps out of the ground and flies 400 amot. Well, they said, no, you don't bring proofs from such a thing. Okay, fine. You see this stream of water, Torah is compared to water. This water that's flowing downstream, if the halacha is like me, should go upstream. And the water started flowing upstream. They said, they say nothing doing. We don't pass them like that. He says, okay, the walls of the Bet Midrash that heard all the Torah that we've learned. If it's like me, they should start collapsing. So Yeshua gets up and says, you stay out of our business. Nobody asked you walls. Stay where don't. So they couldn't go further down because Rabbi Eliezer said, because the Chachamim said, stop. They couldn't go back up because Rabbi Eliezer said they should come down. So they stayed where they were. They were mid-hanging. And the last thing that happened was Rabbi Eliezer said, if the halacha is like me, then a heavenly voice, a bat kol, should come down and say the halacha is like me. And the bat kol, the heavenly voice, came out and said, halacha Rabbi Eliezer. And Rabbi Yeshua gets up and says, Shemayim, stay out of our business. Torah lo b'shamayim, the Torah is not in heaven. You guys don't make these decisions. You gave it to us. We make these decisions. We don't listen to bat kol. And that was where they put him into cherem. They put him into excommunication. The whole very, very deep Gemara. We lost a lot because of that, but they felt that they had to do that because in those days they had the unity of the people was, as Rabbi Victor Miller explains, the unity of the people was essential, and therefore because of this dispute, they were afraid that there was going to be a dissension. So therefore they had to do it. But it was a tremendous loss that we had. Rabbi Eliezer at the end of his life, just to know who this is, he lifts up his hand and he says, "My two hands are like the two poles of the Torah scroll, and I have so much Torah in me that I could have given over, I couldn't give over." Rabbi Kiva at the end of his life, the Gemara at the end of the 7th parak, I think, of Sanhedrin, the Rabbi Kiva went to go, visit him before he passed away, and he told him, how much you lost? I could have taught you so much. So he says, like for what? He tells him, even in things that are mundane, sort of. He says, for example, the Gemara over there at the end is talking about kishuf, talking about witchcraft. So the people of the Sanhedrin, the Rabbanim of the Sanhedrin, have to know witchcraft, because if you're going to judge somebody on witchcraft, so you have to know something about witchcraft. So he says, come, I'll teach you something about witchcraft. He says a few words, and the whole field became full of cucumbers. And he says another few words. The Gemara doesn't tell us what these words are, unfortunately, or we would have had it easy. But he says another few words, and all of the cucumbers came and they got piled up. He says, I knew a lot, I could have taught you a lot, but it was a tragedy what happened. But the Chachamim felt that it was important. But that's the story. So when we say Rabbi Yeshua, that's always the famous Rabbi Yeshua that says we don't listen to bat kol. Torah lo b'shamayim, you gave us the rights to be able to say Torah, to be able to paskin, so therefore it's up to us, we don't listen to you, which is, you need to be Rabbi Yeshua to say that. I wouldn't suggest anybody try this at home. This is Rabbi Yeshua, so this is big guns. Okay, anyway, further, the Gemara says like this, So again, what did we just say? According to Beit Shammai, we said that first you say Birkat Hayom, first you say Kiddush, and then you say Hagefen. So according to him, which one is better? The one that's better is Birkat Hayom. So the Gemara asks a question: V'savi Beit Shammai, the Birkat Hayom Adifa. Is that really true that Beit Shammai holds that Birkat Hayom, when you say Kiddush, that's more important than saying Hagefen? V'hatanya, we learned in the Braita that seems the exact opposite. If somebody comes home on Motzei Shabbat, after Shabbat, so what's the order that you do? Mevarach al hayayin. First, you make a bracha like the way we do it, right? You say Bor Pi Hagefen, Vala Ma'or, then you say Borei Morei Ha'esh, Vala Besamim, then you say Borei Atze Itzbe Mine, whatever you're using Besamim. V'achar kach Omer Havdalah, then you say Hamavda Mekosher Ho, right? Sounds pretty straightforward. That's the way we do it. V'mein lo elo kos echad. Right? Now, let's say, like the case we said before, let's say you only have one cup. Now you need to say Birkat Hamazon. You finish Shodash Shishit, you only have one cup. Now you have Havdalah coming in a few minutes. What do? Do you use it for the Birkat Hamazon, or do you use it for Havdalah? So the Gemara says, if you only have one cup, first you say Birkat Hamazon, then you say Hagefen u'meshashim kulam ma'acharav, and then you say everything afterwards. So now, what is the last thing on the list? Is Havdalah, right? So according to Beit Shammai, Havdalah, you're saying that Kiddush Hayom should be the first thing. So therefore, Havdalah, which is Mahamad Mekosher, should also be the first thing, and therefore that should be in the beginning, and then the Yayin should come at the end. But this Beraita doesn't say that. First you say Mazon, then you say it seems like Havdalah is the last thing. So according to Beit Shammai, then how is this the last thing? The obvious question is, who said this is Beit Shammai? So the Gemara asked the question. In fact, the Gemara asked the question, who said that this is Beit Shammai? Does it say anywhere in this Ju Divrei Beit Shammai or Amar Beit Shammai? It doesn't say that this is Beit Shammai. Maybe this goes like Beit Hillel. Who says that it goes like Beit Shammai? The Gemara says, no. I wouldn't think that this goes like Beit Hillel. Why? The Ketani, what did this Braita say? The Braita says, first you make a bracha on the Yayin, then you make a bracha on Bor Me'esh. This is actually the opposite. We do Besamim and then we do Bor Me'esh, right? Then you do Bor Me'esh and then you do Besamim. We don't do it like this. We do Besamim, then you do Bor Me'esh. Who's the one that has this logic that first you do Bor Me'esh and then you do Besamim? That is none other than Beit Shammai. That goes like Beit Shammai. How do you know Beit Shammai holds that first you do Bor Me'esh and then you do Besamim? Not like us. It's because the Tanya we learned in a Beraita, Amar Yehuda lo nechlaku Beit Shammai Beit Hillel ala mazon shebetechila. Nobody argues. Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel both agree as far as the first thing on the list, Birkat Hamazon. V'ala Havdalah shi besof. What's the last thing that you do? Havdalah. Where is the machloket? The middle two. When you have Bor Me'esh, when you do it on the fire or Besamim on the spices, which one comes first? That's the only machloket. Alma nechlaku. What do they argue about? Alamor v'ala Besamim. Beit Shammai or v'achakach Besamim. Beit Shammai says first you do Bor Me'esh and then you do Besamim. Beit Hillel omrim, no, first you do Besamim like we do. V'achakach more, then you say Bor Me'esh. So you see that's the machloket. So who does this go like? This would have to go like Beit Shammai, because Beit Shammai is the one that says first you do it on the candle, then you do it on the spices. So again, the Gemara doesn't give up. The Gemara says no. So you said that according to Rabbi Yehuda, the whole machlok between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel is only in the middle two. If you do the candle first or you do the spices first, that's the whole machlok. Maybe that's not who we all like over here. Maybe because in our Mishnah, which the Gemara is going to say, our Mishnah on an Aleph Amud, the Gemara is going to say that comes like Remeir, and in the Mishnah over there. The Mishnah says, Beit Hillel says, Ner ubesamim. So you see, even our Mishnah, according to Meir, first, according to Beit Hillel, what's the first thing you do? First you do on the candle, then you do besamim. So maybe it goes like Beit Hillel according to Meir. So who said you should go like Beit Shammai according to Rabbi Yehuda, the way he learned the machloket? Maybe go like the way Meir learned the machloket, it'll be like Beit Hillel. So the Gemara says, no. Right? Now, I wouldn't think such a thing that it would go like Beit Hillel according to Meir. Why? Over here in our Mishnah it says Beit Shammai omrim ner umazon besamim v'havdalah. That's the order. First you do ner first you do Burmesh, first you do it on the candle, then you say Bekat Hamazon. This is again talking about we only had one cup. Then you say Bekat Hamazon with the ayayin. Then you say the spices, Besamim v'Havdalah, and then you say Hamav the Bekoshachol. Well, Betil, that's according to Beit Shammai. Betil says that no, the order is first you say the candle, then you say Besamim, you say the spices, then you say Mazon, then you say Bekat Hamazon, and then you say Havdalah. That's our Mishnah. But over here in the Beraita, what do we say? What did this Brisa just say? If you only had one cup of wine, so what's the order? First you say Bekat Hamazon, and then you do the rest of the order. You do Yayin, and then near Yayin, the candle, the Besamim, and then you say Havdalah. So therefore, Shmamina, the Beit Shammai, Rabbi Yehuda. It means it has to be according to the way Rabbi Yehuda learns the machloket, and the only dispute is where Ner and Havdalah and Besamim go. Because if not, our Mishnah says that first you do Bekat Hamazon in the beginning. This Beraita says that no, that Bekat Hamazon is in the beginning. No, for carry. Our Mishnah says that Bekat Hamazon is in the middle of the whole Havdalah process. This Beraita says that when you do Mazon, first you say Bekat Hamazon, then you do the whole Havdalah. So it cannot, for sure, this Beraita cannot be according to our Mishnah, the Rameir, according to Beit Hillel. So therefore, who does the Beraita have to go like? Has to go like Beit Shammai. So if it goes like Beit Shammai, so then we're back to the original question. We're back to the original question that according to Beit Shammai, we're saying that what's better if you have Borei Priya Gefen, if you have the wine and you have Kiddush, what takes precedence? The Kiddush takes precedence because that's better. But you see over here that Havdalah is the last thing on the list. So you see wine should take precedence, should always be the first question. So the Gemara answers, no, it's different. Because Savri, Beit Shammai holds like this. Shani Ule Yoma Me'afuke Yoma. Erev Shabbat is different than Motzei Shabbat. What's the difference? Iule Yoma Kama Demakdeminale Adif. Erev Shabbat, the earlier you can make Shabbat, the better it is. Obviously not too early. But the earlier you can bring it in, the better off you are. And therefore, we want to say Kiddush first in order to have a Shabbat start right away. If you say Hagefen first, if you have all the kavanot, it can take you 20 minutes to say Hagefen. But by the time you get Kiddush, it'll be a long time. Just joking, right? So first you say, even the 2 seconds for them was a big deal. Like it says, if you say Hayayin, so those 2 seconds, you could have had Shabbat already. 2 seconds of Shabbat is 2 seconds Mein Olam Haba. So it doesn't take 2 seconds. Whatever it is, however long each person, the free madrigaso uma'alato. So first you want to say Kiddush, start Shabbat, then you say Hagefen, because you want to start Shabbat right away. But when it comes to Moshe Shabbat, adiv. The later you can say Havdalah, the better off you are, because again, you're going to be in Shabbat longer. So we want to say Havdalah all the way at the end. This way you say everything beforehand, and then Havdalah you do at the end. So this way you're going to still be in Shabbat. This is a big thing. A lot of times you see this, especially with youngsters. They're checking their time every 3 seconds at the end of Shabbat. When it's Shabbat over, the Chazan is doing too much Chazanut. Let's go. We got to get out of here. I have places to go, people to meet. So unfortunately, it looks like a masui. It looks like somebody's like running away. This is also negate to all the mitzvot, not just Shabbat. But this is the Gemara over here says that by Shabbat, the same thing is with tefillin also. A person shouldn't take off his tefillin so fast because it looks like I'm trying to get rid of this mitzvah already. So a person should take it off. A person should put it on quickly. And when you take it off, you should do it, you shouldn't do it so quickly to show that, it's like, I feel bad taking it off, but I have to, I have to live my life. So therefore I take it off. But this is something that's important. When a person does a mitzvah, a person who's somewhere where he's enjoying, mashallah, if somebody is in the safe of the king, and you can take whatever you want, the person's going to enjoy himself. He's going to be there as long as he can. He's not trying to run out. So if we look at the mitzvah, that's something that the person is trying to gain. So he won't, it's not going to be like a burden on him. Yeah, are we stopping here at 40? What do we? Okay.